All righty. All right. We got a great show here tonight. Cast of thousands. It's good to have you with us here tonight. Live streaming live. And let's get around the horn here for just a minute. See who is here. The man with the glasses. How you doing there?
Welcome.
Good to see you there.
That's because his future is so bright. He's got to wear shades.
Yes,
it's absolutely. Yeah. Here's the.
No, see, the FBI's looking for me. That's what
that's what I thought I was going to say. It's like he's an incognito, man. He's trying to hide there. Put that cap down a little bit more. Let's do something like that. Bob Frantz is with us here tonight. Strictly Speaking Media. Does that sound good?
Close enough. Strictly Speaking Unfiltered is what I'm going by now that I don't have the filters of corporate radio on my ass, so I can say things like that.
I got you. Yeah, I could change that here in a little bit. To get around to changing that here in just a little bit. Also, the chat is open, so if you're out there, please chat, and we're going to put you up there, whatever you have to say, so it makes it you would become part of the show here tonight. It's really great to have you with us here, Bob. I want to get right into it if we can, because you've got an interesting career path, and you've been doing a lot, and you've been in radio a long time. I don't know if people, if they're not in the Cleveland area, they may not have realized that you used to work at WTAM Radio. Yeah. And one of the icons out there at WTAM was Mike Trevisano, who has since passed on. But
been about 3 years now since Trev passed. Yeah,
it's been 3 years, huh?
Yeah.
And I used to listen to that a lot, and I know that you were at WTAM at the same time. I don't know how many years ago it was. Maybe you could tell us. Trevisano, what was he like? Because I would laugh my you-know-what off sometimes. He was pretty hilarious. He had a good talent of making you laugh and stuff. So what kind of a guy was he?
Well, he was a very, very unique talent. There was nobody like him. My introduction to Cleveland radio on a large scale was in 1998 on the 4th of July. I started radio in 1997 in a little town, tiny radio station in the middle of a cornfield in Oberlin called WOBL that played country music and did high school sports. And I was all about sports. I was a player and a coach, and I wanted to do, play-by-play and that kind of thing. I wanted to be the next Tom Hamilton or Nev Chandler or something, So I started out there, and in the hopes of, going up bigger than that. And then I eventually realized there's very, very few people who get to do play-by-play. There's only 32 of them in the whole NFL, in the whole entire world, and basketball and baseball, whatnot. But talk radio at the time, sports talk radio was blowing up. So I started doing my own little, weekly talk show on WOBL. And I sent that tape to a few of the stations in Cleveland, including WTAM, and I got a call from the program director back. It was like, I guess it was kind of mid to late June of 1998, and he said, "Would you like to guest host the Mike Trevisano show on the 4th of July?"
Wow!
And I said, "What?" I mean, I was doing 1 hour a week shows. Okay, I called it the High School Football Showcase, and I interviewed kids, players, and coaches, and gave my rankings of the top teams in Lorain County, and blah, blah, blah. I said, you want me to do 4 hours in the largest radio? Because Mike Trevisano was number one.
Yeah.
And I said, you want me to do 4 hours? I've never done it more than 1 hour. And I was terrified. But of course I said, yeah, sure, I'll be ready. Let's go. And I did, and I was so terrified. I literally scripted the show. I sat down at my computer and I typed a script that I thought was going to last me 4 hours. It lasted me 30 minutes.
And then what do you do? So let me just get this straight real fast here. So you had to fill in for Trevisano, like that, and you were working at the small station WOBL in Oberlin, which I drive past every now and then. Yeah, it's in the middle of a cornfield. And they called you from there to just fill in? That's so weird.
Well, I went to breakfast. They took me out to eat because I had sent a tape in, which is
okay.
A resume, right?
And they
listened to the tape and they really liked what I did. I mean, so there was it wasn't like I was a nobody. I mean, I was a nobody, but to them, they had listened to me a little bit on tape and they said, we want to talk to this guy. So we had breakfast, took me to breakfast, and then called me the next day and said, really appreciated it, really liked it, blah, blah, blah. Would you like to do this? And so, it was trial by fire. It literally was this. We want to see how you do on that stage, and
wow.
I did enough to survive because they called me back and said, here are some pointers, here are some things to do better, but it was really good, and and then a couple of weeks later, they offered me a job where I was going to host on the weekends, I was going to fill in at night, I was going to do some pregame, this, blah blah blah. Point being, that was my introduction to Mike Trevisano, and I spent 98 and 99 in the very first part of 2000 on 1100, and I got to know him because this is going back to your question, what kind of guy was he like?
Yeah, what was he like?
And,
right.
And he was a day-to-day coin flip, to be honest with you. In the early going, he was a day-to-day coin flip. On a good day, he'd acknowledge me, and how you doing? Kind of yeah, good job or something like that. On a bad day, nothing negative, just nothing at all. No response, no greeting, no anything else.
Wow.
He was kind of gruff. It was just dependent on his mood. And then but because I was there and I did the 3 years, it got better as time went on, or nearly 3 years. Then I left and went west for my career. Finally came back in 2006 when I took over my own show there. And by then he knew who I was, and we had talked, and I had done his show, and I had guested on his show, and we had a little bit of a relationship there. And sometimes he seemed to be my biggest fan and my biggest supporter. And other times I felt like I might not be on the right side of the most important guy on this radio station, because there would seem to be some, like I said, some, I don't know what the word is. Not insult, not rudeness, but just kind of a like humph or a hurrah.
He seemed like he could be a hard guy to get along with.
Yeah,
he really seemed like he could be if he got on the wrong side of him, man, he would go after you and stuff, bash you or whatever. But
what made him?
Did he prepare a lot? That's what I always wondered. Did he just wing it, or did he prepare, or what? It sounded like he kind of winged it, but it also sounded like he prepared, or was he just a natural? Was he just naturally gifted like that?
There you go. You just nailed it. That's what made him such a unique talent. Unlike the rest of us who have to prepare. And I mean literally. It's one thing Ray Davis told me when he hired me, when I was filling in for Triv. He said, don't try to be like Triv. Nobody can be like Triv. Yeah. And if you try to, it's going to sound terrible.
Right.
Be yourself. Don't try to imitate him. And it got on his best advice ever, because nobody can do what he does. His unique talent was to not prepare. I mean, you and I sit down, all of us probably, for shows that we do, sit down and type out notes and make some, specific things, pull video, get clips ready, and so on and so forth. He would sit down 5 minutes before with a Sharpie and a piece of blank copy paper and ask, one of his producers, Ratto or somebody, and say, or Marty, and say, what about this? What about that? And he'll jot down 1 or 2 words of topics, and then, okay, let's go. Because he had so much knowledge and so much charisma. He played the dumb Dago role, but he played it like a fox, because he was nowhere near dumb.
Okay.
He was,
I got you.
he had the ability to wing it, as you say, and take the most minimal factoid of a story and play it up right and make people say, I got to talk to that son of a bitch.
Yeah,
they're going to call and yell at him, or they're going to call and say, yeah, right on. He had a way of doing that unlike any, and I've worked with some very talented people, Hall of Fame broadcasters over 28 years. Nobody had the talent that he had. It was very, very
that
unique.
Natural talent. And you had year after year, it was always number one. Everybody knew who he was and stuff like that. But let me ask you this now also. So you were in radio, then you were at WHKW 1420 AM.
HK.
Were you?
Just HK. Just
okay,
WHK.
So you were at WHK for what, 11 years? You were doing a great show.
January of 2015.
Very popular.
Yeah, January of 2015 until December, just this past December. So 11 years.
Okay, and now you've gone over to podcasting now with your new venture here. And so just, briefly, because I know you haven't been doing it that long, is it Is it challenging? Is it different? How does it differ from radio? Because you've been in radio your entire career.
Yeah, well, it is challenging. The camera thing doesn't bother me because I've done television for a very long time too. So I don't, that's obviously the biggest difference is you're on camera, you're not just on the radio and just being heard. But the real challenge is being a one-man band. Especially in the early going as I'm building something. I'm in the infancy of this thing right now. Once it gets to what I want it to be, I would eventually like to hire a producer to do some of the nuts and bolts that have to be taken care of. But as you guys know, if you're doing your own podcast, you're not only doing the content, you have to make sure that the camera is right, that the right screen is being shared, that the right video is being played, that the audio is right, that the guest is booked, you're bringing them on, you're taking your mouse and it's like if you've ever played Tetris, it's like trying to drop all the pieces in the right place at the right time while still being on topic, right?
Right. It was the hardest thing for me. Let me show you this a second, Bob. Look at this. This is what I look at. I use a program called vMix, and this is some of the stuff that I'm looking at here, and so
that's a lot.
That's a lot. It's a lot, and when it first. It's probably way more than what you're using, and not all of that is really even necessary. It's just for different shows and stuff. But
yeah,
it is a lot. It is a lot of preparation, and it can be
to do it all by yourself while staying on topic is the hardest thing in radio.
Exactly.
I had a producer in the other room who would screen the calls, and he would push the buttons and tell me when I'm live and then play the commercials and blah, blah, blah. And now it's all me to do it. So when you don't have that producer or, technical producer next to you and guest booker and stuff, it's just a lot. It's a grind to do all of these things. That's not to say I don't love it, because I do. And I love having no filter. That's why I changed the name from Strictly Speaking with Bob Frantz on the radio to Strictly Speaking Unfiltered now, because we are on the internet. I don't have to worry about FCC. I don't have to worry about anybody telling me what I can and cannot talk about, how hardcore conservative I can be versus not be, which is what happened over there. So I love it. I do, but it's a grind and it's a lot more work. And like I said, and for a while anyway, it's on a building platform right now. It isn't where I want it to be. In 6, 7, 8 months, my game plan, the way I have these things played out, I expect it to be much different, and I'll probably have some help, but I've got to monetize it and I've got to build it and grow it, and that's the challenge phase that I'm in right now.
Yeah, it's a lot of work. All right, let's talk about this
Joe,
here a minute. Yeah, go ahead, Ken.
One before that, I just wanted to say this as a personal, watching Bob and his son at Edinburgh, or now it's called Penn West. I'm from that area. My mom went to Edinburgh, and congratulations to your son on graduating and the career of football. So just
made all conferences senior year as a Fighting Scot.
Yeah.
Very proud of that, and so it's
awesome.
good.
Awesome career.
Yeah, very proud.
Yeah, I love
it's still called
Edinburgh, that area. So
it's still called Edinburgh, but 3 of the campuses combined under the Penn West umbrella. So there's Penn West Edinburgh, Penn West California, and Penn West was the third one. I can't remember. Anyway, but yeah, so it is still Edinburgh though, and he graduated in December, and now he's on his way to law enforcement. So yeah, we're really proud of him.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, and I would recommend anybody that's in that area to watch the fireworks. It's a great place to watch fireworks every 4th of July. And I'll get out of the way.
All right, I'm going to talk here for a second about this abolishing property taxes. We've got this big event coming up tomorrow. It's already here at the Auburn Career Center. We're going to have a tax panel town hall event, and we will be live streaming it also. But let me just go around, break the ice with a few of you guys. Brian, this is right up your alley. You're going to be one of the panelists there.
We're looking forward to it. And it was scheduled for last week, but because of the snowstorm we had, we thought we'd been best that we just cancel it for a week rather than have everybody, freeze to death, coming there. And Auditor Galloway has confirmed he will be there, as will Commissioner Plechnik. And I'm looking forward to hearing what they have to say.
Yeah, it's going to be great to see all you guys there at the Auburn Career Center. That should be an excellent event. And it'll be our third try here. It'll be, I shouldn't say third try. It'll be our third event. We got Brian, we got John, we got Chris Galloway, and the first two have gone really, really well. And to me, the most important thing here is the biggest question, Brian, that I get all the time, and we get on, anytime we post anything about property taxes, is how are you going to pay for this? So that's going to be the first
that's sort of
question we
interesting.
hit you guys with.
Well, they talk about if we are going to eliminate the property tax, how are you going to pay for it? But nobody ever asks the candidates when they say we're going to eliminate income tax. No one asks them, well, how are you going to replace the $10.7 billion that you've been collecting for income tax? It's sort of strange the way that works. And we've got some charts that we're going to show tomorrow, and it's going to confirm what we've been saying, that the state of Ohio does not have a revenue generation problem. It has a spending problem, pure and simple. So we've got some new things that we will be showing tomorrow, and we've got some politicians. I've created some videos of politicians that I've taken their statements, over the past couple of years, and there's a senator that's not going to be real happy after this meeting tomorrow.
There it is. Okay, we got to get everybody out there. That is tomorrow, Auburn Career Center. Get out there. But that's an excellent point that you just made there, because we're talking about eliminating the state income tax. And nobody's saying, well, how are you going to pay for it? How are you going to pay for it, right? That's a good point. Right. Yeah. All right. Well, we're going to... I want to move over to here on this.
Governor Mike DeWine talked with News Center 7 about the impact of thousands of Haitian immigrants losing their...
Okay, so let's get on to the topic here of the Haitian immigrants.
Can I jump in for a minute real quick before you get onto this topic?
Yeah, sure. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay, sorry about that. I wanted to say something about the property tax. I wanted to ask something about it, really, if I can. And Brian, by the way, Brian, you look like you belong behind the joystick of an F-16 fighter jet right now, with the big muffs and the you look like you're Top Gun right now. Which is
he
just
does.
It's all kind of awesome. I love it. I love the look. Brian, I want to address what you just said, because I want to tie it, if I can, and I apologize, Joe, if we're going to talk about the gubernatorial race later, but they tie together here, because the last two times I've interviewed Vivek Ramaswamy, we've talked about this, and I have talked about the elimination of the property tax, and I've talked about how there are a lot of really good people pushing for this, and we really think, that it can pass, and it's going to be right for the senior homeowners who have paid for their homes already and now are leasing them from the government, and if they don't pay, they lose it. It's all that stuff has got to go. And I said, are you for that? And both times he said to me, he's very concerned about it and wants property tax reform, but he's talking about the elimination of the income tax first and foremost. And so I wanted to kind of maybe, if we can, I wanted to get your guys' opinion, because right now the only one I have is mine and his. And I want to get your opinion on exactly that. First of all, how do you think that will play with conservative voters in the state, with Vivek, in terms of this primary? Because there is a primary for what it's worth. He seems to have all of the chips on his side of the table, because he's got the endorsement of Trump, endorsement of the Ohio Republican Party, and so forth. But how do you feel about that? And then secondly, when it comes to the property tax, you're right about our spending problem. We've all talked about this in the past. There are of the handful of states in the Midwest and even down into the Mid-South that are our size, in terms of around 11, 12 million people. They've got operating budgets of $50 billion, every 2 years. Ours is 90 some billion dollars. So why are we spending twice as much as other states, similarly located, similarly sized? So we do have to cut our spending, but we have to figure out where. And my wife is a county worker, and her department and others related to her department, they have just found out they are facing slashes. And this is before $1 is cut from property taxes or from income taxes. But the commissioners are saying that their budgets are being reduced dramatically. And so a whole lot of people are going to be losing their jobs. So I know I just put a shit ton out there. Excuse me. I just put a lot out there for you, but I want to know how you feel about the fact that Vivek is very much in the corner of abolishing the income tax before the property tax. And then I want to know, with either one, what are we going to do? Where are the spending cuts going to come from that aren't going to hurt people who are actually working, necessary government jobs?
Yeah. You want me to address that, Joe?
That's a lot.
That is a lot. Go ahead, Brian.
Okay, well, we're trying to get an audience with Vivek Ramaswamy. I have been told by one of our regional captains has said that she's got an audience with Vivek perhaps next week, next Saturday, and I'm looking forward to that because I will address that directly with him. I have not heard one average citizen throughout the state, and I've talked to a lot of people on the property taxes. No one has said, I'm sure glad they're going to eliminate income tax. It just hasn't come up. Now, as far as the spending is concerned, number one, I don't believe that the role of government should be in the valuation of properties. If you eliminate property taxes, you're going to cut the size of government. In my opinion, the public sector has outgrown the private sector's ability to pay for the services. This is at the state and at the local level. The state continues to bring money in, and I think in the total funds have gone up in the last, I think it's 10 years, like 70%. And what has happened, the state is not sharing it with the local government. It's a category called revenue distribution, which is the local government funds. The state has cut the local government funds in half, and I think it started with Kasich, and they have not increased the revenue to the local governments. Therefore, the local governments have to rely on the income or the property tax to pay for the services. When I'm asked, well, how am I going to pay for police and fire? I says, of course I'm going to pay for police and fire. We're not anarchists trying to say that we're going to, tear the government down. I'm just saying you come up with a different way of charging me and send me a bill for these services. I had one radio show host ask me, well, Brian, how am I going to pay up in Lorain County? I've got $36 million. I said, how many people do you have in Lorain County? I said, divide that into what your bill is, and you send everybody a bill for it. And he said, well, you really can't do that. And I said, you say you can't do that because you're so used to this property taxes, and it is too complex. It's too costly to administer. Even the legislators don't understand it. You're paying tax on unrealized gains, and any tax that causes a citizen to become homeless is immoral. So that's why we're fighting it. I can't tell you how many seniors that have contacted me and said, Brian, I'm going to lose my house. I can't afford these property taxes. It really is heart-wrenching. And I'll talk to Vivek Ramaswamy directly, and I'm going to tell him of my experiences within the state of Ohio. I'm going to ask him to sign that petition. And if he doesn't sign the petition, there will be ramifications for that. And I will tell the people in the state of Ohio, we've got a candidate for governor that doesn't worry about seniors.
Very good.
Is that clear enough?
Yeah, that's pretty clear. Let me get some of the other guys here talking a little bit here. Jonathan, I'm going to go to you. Get your 2 cents.
All right, so backing up just a little bit, I want to point out something that's really important. It has to do with credit where credit is due. Bob was talking about some of the difficulties of putting together a radio program or a podcast like this one, and I want to give a shout out to Kent, who is behind the scenes on most every episode of Ohio Political News that you watch. He's kind of the glue that makes the things happen in the background. You hear his voice every once in a while chime in, encouraging things like this nice mug that I'm enjoying my tea out of this evening. And on my radio show, if you listen to Voice of Geauga, you won't hear Thomas, but Thomas works in the background. So if there are podcasts out there, and I do hope for Bob's sake that soon he hits that revenue threshold where he's able to bring somebody in and take some of that workload off, because juggling all those while being a personality is really difficult. So credit where credit's due. The next thing on my list is where, once again, it's frustrating as heck, but we are in that lesser of two evils conversation where it comes to Vivek Ramaswamy versus Amy Acton. And I hate it, but it's where we are, and it's where we keep finding ourselves. I'm going to drag that dead horse just for a moment longer. Oh, actually, in probably most every Ohio political news episode that we do. And that has to do with precinct strategy. If we want more and better from our Ohio Republican Party, we need to get active and get involved and make it happen. Right now, we're at about half strength, which gives too much power to too few people. And they can push bad actors, bad people over the goal line, and they can force tough decisions on us rather than we the people advocating for and getting the types of candidates that we feel we deserve. It's ohioprecinctstrategy.org is the website. And the last thing I'm going to say is something I'm working on. I've kind of thrown it around a little bit among some friends of mine. I'm calling it the 5% theory. If you think about nonprofits and what we know about how nonprofits work, and I'm being kind of a little tongue-in-cheek and a little facetious, but maybe a little honest at the same time. A lot of these nonprofits bring in billions and billions of dollars, but then only allow little trickles to go out toward the actual stated goal. What if government actually works the same way? What if government brings in trillions and trillions of dollars, but in order to keep the thumb screws to us, maybe only 5%, let's say, hypothetically, actually goes toward the thing that they're telling us that they're going to do, policing or fixing potholes or roads and bridges or schools or education. I have a strong case that that's actually happening in education. Look at the billions and billions of dollars that go through so that maybe around 30% of our kids can actually read. That, I think, is the problem. So when we're unraveling this whole nasty, sticky ball of wax around property taxes, we need to be honest about doing a fair assessment of where our money's going. We should be demanding a heck of a lot more and better for a heck of a lot less money.
You got it. All right, I'm bringing George Satari. George, you're out there tonight, right?
I am. I checked in later because if every time I came in early, I couldn't get in, so I decided to come in 5 minutes later. But great conversation so far. I was just talking with somebody today at Pastor Toring's church about funding education, and it's interesting. We can move toward AI. We can get electric cars. We can get air conditioning. Society can change. Technology can change. Everything can change except funding for the schools. And we get the right. same crappy results. Let's face it, 50 years ago, 40 years ago, they weren't too bad. But now the last 10 years, 15 years, 30% of our students can read at grade level, 30% can work at math levels, and those levels have been severely diminished and curtailed. So 30% reading at grade level means I don't know what grade level they're reading at. 8th grade is probably the equivalent of 4th grade now. So again, things could change, technology can change, people's lives can change, but education funding can't change. That's what they're basically saying.
That's a good point. Yeah. Hey, let me ask you a quick question because you're CPA and everything like that. Brian brought up that whole idea that, hey, we're going to abolish the state income tax, and no one is saying how are we going to fund it. And that's interesting, right?
Yeah, it is actually. We do a lot of income taxes, and the state income tax is probably the least onerous, especially for small business owners, because there's a huge $250,000 exemption. So if you're a small business owner, thanks to Governor Kasich, actually Governor Kasich also eliminated the state estate tax. The state income tax rate is down to about 2.5% now. So that's the least onerous. Actually, it's real estate taxes that are the worst, and then sales taxes.
Bob, I want to ask you a question here. Somebody is interested in the primary. I think this would be a good opportunity now to just talk about that for a minute. We got Casey Pooch. We've got Heather Hill, Vivek Ramaswamy. What's your thoughts on this upcoming gubernatorial primary?
I think it's a shame that I'm not opposed to the primary process at all. I think it's a shame that there is an active push to hand Ohio to the Democrats. And I believe that's exactly what Casey Putsch is. Heather Hill, I don't know. I've heard little, but from what I have heard, I'm not a fan of. I've not talked to her. I have talked to Casey for an hour. And I literally listened to him for most of that hour that I had him on, and I did not like what I heard. I heard a guy who wasn't serious about winning. I heard a guy who was serious about stopping Vivek Ramaswamy, and that's it. Literally, that's it. He had a vitriolic, answer for every single thing. I asked him about his knowledge of the Ohio budget. How much is the Ohio budget? What is your plan? Where would you make cuts? What would you prioritize to keep in the Ohio budget? Well, I'm running for governor. The election's in what, four as of 2 weeks ago when I had this conversation with him. It's in about 4.5 months. I've seen the budget, but I haven't really read it. You don't know what's in the budget, but you want to lead a state with a $90-some billion budget, and you haven't looked at it, and you're running for governor. That bothered me. I asked him about manufacturing. I asked him about, economic growth, economic revenue drivers, and so on and so forth. And every answer that I got was just more hate for Vivek Ramaswamy, which is fine if you want to hate Vivek Ramaswamy and your goal. And he called him everything under the sun but a man. It didn't sound like he was serious about wanting to be governor as much as it sounded like he wants to stop Vivek from being governor. And if he stops Vivek from being governor, Amy Acton will be the governor. It's just that simple. If an underfunded, no name, loud screamer, and he screamed at me for the entire hour. And he said on a couple of occasions, by the way, I'm not mad at you, speaking of me. I'm just yelling because I'm mad at all of it. And damn, I'm mad as hell, and damn it, I'm not going to take it anymore, that routine. And I got no answers except for hate. And then the worst part about it was I asked him very directly, are you saying, because he talked about, the primary, I said, he said there's no difference between the left and the right. That was the other thing that really, really got to me. He said there's no difference between the left and right. That's saying there's no difference between Democrats and Republicans, that we're all the same. And I asked him, I said, are you asking Democrats to come over and support you in the Republican primary because of our warped open primary system here? And he said, anybody that's allowed to vote for me should absolutely come and vote for me. So he's asking Democrats to come over and choose the Republican nominee, which of course, if it is him, he's got next to no money in terms of, being able to fund a campaign for a general election. Not a chance. And then when it came down to it, he said, by the way, if I do this and I pull this off and I become win the GOP primary, the whole ORP, which he's livid at for endorsing Vivek already, they all are going to have to support me 100%. And I said, you're right. They are. And they will. If you're the nominee, you better believe they'll put all of their resources behind you. No doubt about it. But I said, Casey, tell me, does the same thing work in reverse? He said, what do you mean? I said, if you don't win the primary and Vivek does, will you support and vote for Vivek Ramaswamy? And he admitted directly, no, I will not. He said, I'll sit it out, and I hope everybody else does too. So if you tell every Republican voter that is pissed off because Vivek is the nominee and you're not, do not vote, you're handing Amy Acton and the Democrats our red state of Ohio so that they can make it blue, so that she can become the next, Spanberger in Virginia.
That would be horrible. That's be horrible.
I'm telling you guys, and Jonathan, you said it 2 minutes ago, you hate being in the boat of, lesser of two evils situation. And I don't believe Vivek Ramaswamy is evil. I do understand there are a lot of people who have questions and a lot of people who have concerns. I'm among them, but I have no doubt that the only person in the Republican race who can beat Amy Acton and win the governor's office and try to keep this state red, such as it is. It's a rhino-y red, but it's still red, and that's better than blue. The only person is Vivek Ramaswamy, and I think anybody else who goes in another direction is trying to spoil it because they hate him. They hate the fact that he's a Hindu. They hate the fact that he's, that he's an Indian, that he's got a name they're calling Ramaswampy, and it's just vitriol for the sake of trying to stop him, not to help Ohio. And I'm quite frankly a little bit worried about it, and probably a little bit more frankly pissed off about it.
All right, gotcha. Very good.
New
Okay,
at 5, Governor
let's
Mike
watch
DeWine
this a minute.
talked with
Watch
News Center
this.
7 about the impact of thousands of Haitian immigrants losing their legal status next year.
We've seen some great things that have been going on in regard to Springfield. Part of what has been driving that, though, is the Haitians who are filling the jobs that needed to be filled.
The Trump administration announced they are ending the temporary protected status for Haiti, impacting thousands of immigrants in Springfield. Their legal.
I just want to put some perspective in this. So, Tuesday, the protective status for the Haitians, and we've got 20,000 of them in Springfield. That's it. They are no longer protected class.
Status
Time for them to go.
in February.
What that means is all the companies that employ them will no longer be able to employ them. So that's going to have a huge impact on the economy in Springfield and Clark County. Big problem is we know they can't be employed. So they've been, contributing members of the community. Now they can't be employed. So, are they going to leave? I can tell you one thing, they're not going to go back to Haiti because it's so dangerous down there.
All right. So anyhow, I want to talk about this here for a minute because this is good old Springfield, Ohio. Remember, they're eating the dogs, they're eating the cats out there in Springfield. I love that. I love that. This was, to me, the classic, the best part of that whole debate, man. I loved it.
They're eating the dogs, they're eating the cats. Eat the cat, eat the cat. They're eating the dogs, they're eating the cats.
All right, let's see. So what DeWine is talking about is the gangs in Haiti are extremely violent, okay? He also says that the economy is in shambles. I guess his major problem, the major problem that DeWine has, is if you kick all these Haitians out of there, the whole economy is going to collapse in Springfield. It's like they're holding it up. They're holding up that entire economy, which is ridiculous, okay? Absolutely ridiculous.
Hey, Joe.
I want to get some of your guys' thoughts on that. Yeah.
Joe, when did the Haitians get to Springfield? 5 years ago? 4 years ago? Of course, before they got there, Springfield was a desert, nothing going on. My economy didn't exist.
That's right.
Such, now we're on a podcast. That's such bullshit from Governor DeWine that the economy is going to collapse in Springfield. What was Springfield doing before the almighty, wonderful Haitians got there? Give me a break.
And aren't they all basically on welfare as it is? From what I've heard, remember you had all those houses where the more Haitians could fit in, the more money you'd get from the federal government. And some of these houses had, eight of them, 10 of them living in a small house or something because the landlord was getting money for each Haitian that was in there. And then you've heard about things, because we've done stories on Springfield in the past. You heard about how they couldn't drive, accidents everywhere. So all these problems, and they're all on welfare. We had one person on here who was saying, hey, you know what the worst thing was? Getting behind them in a supermarket, because they'd have all their food in a cart. They'd hand them the card, the government card, to pay for everything, and there wouldn't be any money left on it. And it's like they're trying to tell the Haitian, you can't buy all this stuff, and they're like, oh yeah, right. Keep more food. It's like the whole thing is so ridiculously stupid. All right. Let me get a couple of these guys on here. Brian, what's your thoughts on that Haitian stuff? They're eating the dogs, they're eating the cats. Crying out loud.
I remember Jeff Springer was on Ohio Political News talking about this because he's from the Springfield area, and I think he would be really opposed to what Governor DeWine was saying. I don't think they've really helped Springfield. In fact, didn't Jeff say that the longtime residents of Springfield moved out because they didn't like the Haitians coming in.
Yeah. The whole idea that they're taking, that nobody could do these jobs. I want to know what the jobs are that nobody is willing to do over there. And what jobs are they doing that the economy is just going to completely eviscerate because the Haitians are going to go back to Haiti?
I think the businesses, some businesses moved out, I think Jeff was saying, because of policies by our our governor or our government in the state that the businesses left. So I don't think that they're, filling high-paying jobs in Springfield.
And it's kind of ridiculous. Real quick, Bob, what do you think? What are your thoughts on that? Springfield and all that. What do you think?
Well, I think the commentary we just heard from Sherrod Brown there was really, really alarming. Sherrod basically is saying that the community of Springfield and Ohio communities in general would be better off if we had more Haitians. In fact, not only for Springfield, they're doing such a great job for Springfield as Sherrod Brown. That was Sherrod Brown, right? Who was talking a few minutes ago?
Oh no, that was our governor, by the way. That was.
You
our governor.
can't tell the difference. There's no difference between Mike DeWine and Sherrod Brown. That's my point. Sherrod Brown said something almost identical, and Bernie Moreno on X tore him a new one and pointed out the truth about this whole thing. And what Sherrod Brown said, Mike DeWine said, he literally said this is for the betterment of Ohio's communities to have more Haitians there. But by the way, we don't want to send the Haitians back to Haiti because Haiti is such a, what did President Trump lovingly call countries like that a few years ago? Shithole. So let's export the people who made Haiti a shithole to the United States so they can create shitholes here. What, are you kidding me? Temporary, as Senator Moreno put on X, means temporary. Not permanent. It means you have to go home after a certain point in time. And then he went on to say, well, you don't have to. As the old line goes at closing time at the bar, you don't have to go home, but you cannot stay here. The people of Springfield have had their lives ruined because of this massive importation. A town of like 59,000 people, 20,000 Haitians descended upon that, doing like you talked about, taking a bunch of federal dollars, living, 20 to a house and things of that nature, and then not knowing the language, not knowing how to drive, but driving, crashing their cars into other people. It is a dangerous, dangerous place to be. And they're saying, Brown, DeWine, they're saying that that's good for the communities. Well, that would mean, you know what? Let's disperse them into my neighborhood, your neighborhood. Put them in Geauga County. Put them in Lorain County, put them in Summit County. It doesn't matter because they're good for the communities. They bring economic growth and development. No, they don't. George was spot on. How did they even survive as a town before the great Haitian migration came to Springfield? Oh my gosh, they must have been just a couple of dirt roads and log cabins there because, boy, without the Haitians, there's nothing in Springfield. Garbage. Absolute garbage. Get them out, bring ice. Yeah, and you know what? The cats and dogs might be happier too. But if they want to bring ice to Springfield, Wednesday morning, since it expired, TPS expires on Tuesday, I will be cheering for them and waving the I Stand with Ice flag because that's exactly what is supposed to happen.
All right, very good. I want to switch gears here for a minute.
No, just a final note on that. The concept, besides sending them back, the concept that's constantly missed is our founding fathers pledged their lives, their fortunes, and their sacred honor. Did the Haitians ever think of going back there, grabbing the bull by the horns, and pledging their lives, their fortunes, and their sacred honor? No, they pledge our lives, our fortunes, and our sacred honor. Now, the Iranian people have finally woken up, and a lot of people are unfortunately dying, but I think they're at the tipping point where they're pledging their life, their fortune, and their sacred honor. This is a philosophical concept that these other people from all these other backwater places and even places that are not necessarily that backwater, like Germany, they've become so socialist. Britain, they've lost their mind. France, the people are going to have to rise up and pledge their lives, their fortunes, and their sacred honor. I have clients in Germany. They're worried about getting their second and third Mercedes. They're worried about their country homes. But meanwhile, they can't say anything on the internet. They have a hard time organizing. And I tell them, look, you people got to get your act together and pledge your life, your fortune, and your sacred honor, not ours.
Don't have to go to Germany. Go to Virginia. To start the fight in Virginia or Chicago or many other places. I'm going to chime in with a couple of comments. One is go on the social media platform X and find Homath. It's sort of a funny name. Homath has made a video It's called How Math Breaks Down Left versus Right. And it's comical, but also kind of spot on. And it talks about the ideological differences between today's left and today's right. But there's another series of posts that I've seen recently that they're eye-opening. The first thing to know is that unfortunately there are people on both sides of the aisle who like cheap labor. And that's what it is. They're looking for basically importing slave labor. And if they can use taxpayer dollars to subsidize it, they're going to do that. And that's what they've done in Springfield, Ohio, and places like it. They can bring in cheap labor, use our money, the taxpayer fund their residents, and buy them food, and then pay them sub-minimum wage, and they just destroy our job base. It's happening all over America. It happened to California. It's horrible, horrible stuff, and we need to be fighting back. Trump's doing a good job with that. But there's another element, and it's why aren't more of us asking the question, if these people are so good at making and building and growing, and they're so industrious, why aren't they industrious in the place that they came from? Why aren't they growing and building and making stuff in the place that they left? And if the answer, like Sharon DeWine just gave, I like Bob's explanation. They're kind of interchangeable.
Yeah.
If Mike DeWine is saying, well, they could possibly go back to Haiti because Haiti's dangerous, does that mean that any dangerous place with questionable people that we clearly have not vetted are welcome here, and we just put them to work as cheap labor that's subsidized by taxpayers because there's war? There's always war all over the world. People are fighting all the time. It doesn't mean that Springfield, Ohio needs to be this hotbed of basically taxpayer subsidized slave labor.
It's very strange that that Springfield, of all places, just had this huge hub of Haitians descend upon it. Very strange. Hey, listen, I want to cover one other topic here. Well, I still got Bob with us here. This is the Don Lemon's, this whole fiasco with Don Lemon here.
He said he was surprised that the cops hadn't shown up yet.
Okay, so what happened is Don Lemon, he's with this whole group of protesters that went into a church on January 18th. So it's he's claiming that now he's an independent journalist. Okay, they did arrest him on the 29th. And let's see what else here. So he went into this worship center because the pastor there had ties with ICE. So the protesters felt, hey, this is a great way to make a scene. He's live streaming the whole thing. They burst in during the worship service. And that's what Jesse Waters is referring to here.
Acknowledging that he knew it was against the law. At one point, Lemon notices kids are crying and says they're being traumatized. And then he says, oh, well, that's the whole point of the operation. The indictment says children thought their parents were going to die. Parents were grabbing their children and fleeing for safety. Lemon's mob was menacing families and calling them Nazis. He was encouraging and supporting the reprehensible behavior. And at one point, thanked the ringleader. Lemon wasn't an independent journalist. He was on their team. Listen.
White supremacist!
What's that going to mean?
This is a white supremacist agenda!
Why do you say that? No, dude, I'm not here.
Whose team are you on?
Come on, man.
Don Lemon.
This is Don Lemon.
All right, man.
All right, well, no.
Sorry, brother. I'm so sorry.
Really?
No, I'm so sorry.
He's very much on our team. Lemon was even handing out refreshments to the crowd.
Do you want some coffee?
I'm okay. All right, so Don Lemon.
Don Lemon is on the front lines right now.
Yeah, Don Lemon claims that he was acting purely as a journalist. So he's got those First Amendment rights. He was allowed to be in there. He's videotaping, interviewing people. But he was also the one who helped to arrange the whole thing. He brought donuts. He brought coffee. He knew what time it was going to happen, everything. So he was a conspirator. He was a protester like everybody else. And watch this I like this. Watch this for a second. I'm going to get you guys' comments. Now, this is from Megyn Kelly's show, and they were talking about it. because he wasn't the only like journalist or protester. There was another. This woman
Once we
here
got to
also
the Sherburne
was
County
fairly
jail,
well known. Was arrested.
We were strip searched. We were placed in jail uniforms. We were locked in cells side by side. And I'm not even going to talk about what they tried to feed us that looked like mystery meat. That makes me sad for the people who are currently incarcerated and not even being fed decently for their survival. I didn't
Get
want
out
to
the
use
violin.
the restroom in my cell. Why? Because there's a camera watching your every move. This is in spite of going through x-ray machines and being strip searched where they know you have no contraband. And yet still there's a camera in your room watching you with nothing else in there but a bed on cement and a metal toilet that doubles as a water fountain.
Okay, now Megan and this other guy come in. I was laughing, so I want to play this here. It's very comical, their response to this woman
She
here.
was going to the Ritz, Michael
I
Knowles.
wonder, did she expect foie gras? They didn't even serve me creme brulee afterward. Not even a tasty little snack to follow my meal. This is, and she seems genuinely surprised by this.
Mystery meat.
Mystery meat. This wasn't even grass-fed Wagyu. No, it wasn't. Because prison. This has been lost on the
Prison.
left, but I think it's been lost on some parts of the right too. Prison is for punishing people.
Oh, what a concept there, Bob. Prison is for punishing people. Isn't that hilarious, though? She was, there's another part, too, that I cut out because she was just jawing for a long time. But she said, they put handcuffs on me. Now I know what it's like to be a slave. I took these classes in college about slavery, and they treated me just like a slave. Racism, the whole works. It was crazy, man.
Joe, you know what point she really missed? This is exactly the way the J6 prisoners were treated, and even worse.
That's right.
They had pretrial detention for 2, 3, 4 years, solitary confinement, not getting medical treatment, strip search constantly, sleeping on concrete, eating with the maggots and the rats. So give me a break.
Wow.
Nobody cared about J6 at that time. And this woman was probably let out within 24, 48 hours. So boo-hoo, boo-hoo.
That's a good point. She was not in there very long. Okay, she was not in there very long. And somehow she survived. What's your whole thoughts being a journalist yourself about Don Lemon there, Bob?
Well, first of all, George, spot on. Exactly right. Well said. And I'm glad you brought those points out. To focus on the Don Lemon thing, I mean, honestly, what you said is exactly right. Jesse Waters kind of laid it out. I did it in one of my Bob Frantz Road Rants videos where I just get in my truck and I start talking about stuff that matter to me when I'm on the road someplace. And this was one of the points that I made too. And I later on inserted not the part where he was offering them coffee and donuts and saying, come on, man, what do you mean, whose side am I on? It's Don Lemon right here, don't you know? And making it very clear, I'm one of you. The part that I focused on in my video rant was the part where he said one 2-letter word that to me will convict him. We. He didn't say they. Actually, he did say they, but then he slipped a few different times and said we. So we're going to go in and do this, then we are going to go do that. Not sure where we are going after that. He was part of them. And he said, here's my little game. Y'all go in there and scare the bejeebers out of everybody, make the kids cry, chant these horrible things, call ICE Nazis, attack the pastor, yell at him. You do all that. I'll hold the microphone so that I have freedom of the press defense. I can, First Amendment rights. I'm just here covering this as an independent journalist. There's nothing wrong with independent journalism. Nick Shirley is an independent journalist doing extraordinary work. People like Benny Johnson, Cam Higbee, these guys are doing some incredible journalism. You don't have to work for one of the big networks to be a journalist. But he wasn't there to cover it. He was there to foment it. He embedded with them and participated with them and then proceeded to harass the pastor with the microphone, thinking that would get him off. Well, guess what? Carrying a microphone does not give you cover for breaking the law. That's not how the First Amendment works. Just because you have press credentials doesn't mean you can break the law, like violating the FACE Act, like conspiring to disrupt that service, which, by the way, if you're so big on the First Amendment, you're telling us that you're in the clear because of your First Amendment freedom of the press, but you're allowed to disrupt their First Amendment rights to freedom of religion, to practice their religion as they see fit. So Don Lemon, to me, I think it's as open and shut as anything. He virtually convicted himself with all of the pre-storming or whatever we're calling that invasion of the church, all of that stuff that happened outside. And the fact that the original judge, a magistrate judge, was not going to go ahead and charge him, but then they went ahead and took the evidence that they have to an actual circuit judge, and they said, yep, definitely enough there for probable cause, arrest him and charge him. That's exactly what should happen. I hope he goes to prison, except for the fact that he's Don Lemon and he might like it, so I'll stop there.
All right, we will definitely stop there. Somebody's got to start going to jail. We have to start getting arrests. I don't know if it's Kash Patel, Pam Bondi, but we've got to start getting arrests.
I agree with that, Joe. I mean, are we going to go another 2 years and no one gets arrested?
And Tim Walz has got to get thrown into slammer. Him and that Mayor Frey, they got to get thrown into the slammer. I mean, we need to just clean house, and I mean that literally. Congress.
Well,
it doesn't seem like it's going to happen, Joe. Honestly,
you know who needs to go to prison from up there in Minnesota? Yeah, I'm sorry, Brian. Ilhan Omar needs to go to prison from up there. I mean, you're right about Frey, the mayor, and you're right about Walz, but Ilhan Omar as well. And look, the real bottom line of this, though, if I'm being honest, you want to really put a stop to that stuff? The people who need to go to jail are the protesters. If they had thrown that Alex Preddy into jail for the weekend the last time, 11 days earlier when he attacked the ICE agents and kicked the taillight out of that vehicle and so forth, if they'd have lied, all they did was, grab him, hold him, detain him for 2 seconds, and then we're on our way. If they threw him in jail and made his life miserable for 48 hours, guess what? Next weekend, he might have stayed home. It's 5 degrees out there. Put these people who are getting in the way and obstructing and impeding law enforcement, put them in zip ties and lay them in the snow until the paddy wagon comes. It's awfully cold down there. Let them be uncomfortable as hell, then take them to the holding cell. And I don't care if they're out in 24 hours or 48 hours or whatever. Make them miserable for that period of time. And then maybe the next time they'll stay home and say, that wasn't fun. Start arresting and putting those people in jail rather than, long game, we're going to eventually get Frey and we're going to get Walz and so forth. Protect the agents now and lock up the actual obstructionists, those who are the anarchists, who are those who are causing the problem. That's who I want to see start getting arrested, personally.
You got him.
Yeah, I agree with one of our the chats. What about Pam Bondi? I'm starting to question, Pam Bondi, whether she's really got it or not. But time will tell.
Yeah, Kash Patel, a little disappointed with him too, but time will tell. But, we've got a rare opportunity, as they said. We've got the trifecta right now, the House, the Senate, and the presidency. We've got Trump, which is a one-in-a-lifetime president, one in the history of our country. We've got him. We need to get the SAFE Act done. We need to get all this stuff passed. We need to get laws passed. Congress has to start doing something. And they're they care about their careers. That's what they care about. They don't care who really is the president, the Republican, Democrat, whatever. They care about their career and their cushy job, and they love it. And, so we got to boot those guys out. Bob, I want to say thanks, man. Thanks for coming on. We got to have you on again, so I hope we can have you on again real soon. But I want to thanks again, and It's a crazy world out there, man. Crazy world.
No, yeah, it's a pleasure. I'm glad you guys are here, though. Seriously, all of you. And I wish I didn't have to do my live cast at the same time as Voice of Giaga, Jonathan, because I enjoyed going on with you guys a little bit too. We're going to have to find a way to cross over a little bit, I think, during that time period. But yeah, you guys are doing amazing work. I hope tomorrow night is hugely successful and very well attended. I won't be able to be there, but I'm going to try to watch the live stream of the property tax special tomorrow night, you guys. So Brian, good luck with that. And
thank you very much.
Nick is going to be there in Callaway. So yeah, you guys are doing amazing work. I'm honored to be asked to sit in with you guys. And anytime you need me, you know where to find me.
Excellent. Well, God bless you. Thank you.
Thanks, Bob.
Thanks,
Appreciate it. Thank you, Bob. I really appreciate you, man.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you very much. All right. Excellent. Okay, we've got Jason Barnhart coming up here in just a minute, but Kent, fill us in on what's happening there. The channel and everything.
I'll say it really quick. First off, make sure to go to all platforms and subscribe, follow, and share. Rumble, YouTube, Facebook, X. If you can, go to Rumble and go to the gift icon, and you can support us that way. You can go to our website and go to donate and support over on the website. It's ohiopoliticalnews.com, and you can also go to our shop, ohiopoliticalnews.com/shop, and support us there. Facebook, you can send us stars in the chat. If you're chatting, I see a bunch of people in the chat on all platforms. We appreciate it. I also want to say this really quick for support of any sponsors or companies that are interested. If you guys are affiliated with a company or anything like that, I know the Olympics are coming up shortly, and Jim Craig, the goalie of the Miracle on Ice, it happened, in February 22nd of 1980. A big deal. He speaks all over a bunch of companies asking, do you want to compete or do you want to win? I know here, especially for Brian and those guys for abolishing property taxes, they want to win. With Ohio Political News, we want to win, and we want to also, we're growing and we're building. And if you want to come and build with us and, win with us, make sure to, email Joe, or you can go to also Kent at ohiopoliticalnews.com. Win with us. And we know that's another part of, supporting sponsorships, whatever you want to do. Be part of the flyers. We're putting up these flyers. Make sure you could be a sponsor of the, part of the flyer and be up there, and plan it on all platforms. So also support us and win with us, just like Trump does. He wants to win. It doesn't hurt to win, but I appreciate that. So keep going, and we will support anybody that's interested in what we're doing, because we're live streaming. It will cost money to do what we're doing tomorrow night. If you can, please support us. We appreciate it. If you want to be a sponsor for upcoming events, please let us know. And thank you again.
All right, thanks. Yeah, thank you, Ken.
They're going to be able to sign the petition, Joe and Kent. We'll have several of our circulators, there at the tables where you can sign the petition to abolish property taxes. And you don't have to be just from Lake County. We can handle all 88 counties if they're coming from 88 counties.
Brian, you see that text right there, that tweet. When will we get a preliminary count? You promised that it would happen by January 31st.
No, wait a minute. I didn't promise. One thing I've learned about Trump, the basic thing that I have learned is that leverage is an extremely important tool. And the more that I hold on to these numbers, and if the legislators think, we don't have enough, and they're going to reap what they've sown. All I'm just saying to the citizens of the state of Ohio is that help us collect signatures, send them in to us, we'll process them, and we're going to get it on the ballot. We're going to get it on the ballot.
You get it on the ballot, it will pass. I guarantee you. You get it on the ballot, it will pass, without a doubt. We got to bring in our next guest because you've been waiting patiently. How are you, Jason? Good to see you, man.
I'm good, Joe. Thanks for having me back on.
No problem. So, tell us a little bit about what you've been doing. Okay, what you got some plans? You going into the military? Is that right?
Yes. So I am making it official. Hopefully this week. I have not basically announced anything yet. It's a big leap from what I've been doing. I've been helping with a lot of campaigns with state reps and state senators. And I started looking around and I saw the world of politics shifting, and it wasn't shifting in a good way. It was shifting away from God. And I said, I've always said that I'm a patriot. I've always said that I love this nation. Why not prove it? I can talk the talk all day, but if I'm not willing to walk the walk, then I have no leverage on anything. And I love this country, and I signed a lot of paperwork last week, and the entire thing in my entire mindset was, Jason, when you signed the contract to make yourself officially property of the United States government, are you willing to die for your nation? And every time I checked the box and wrote my signature in it, I said, hell yeah, I am willing to die for this nation because I love this nation. And I love my family, but most importantly, I love God.
That is so incredibly awesome. And I hope Kent recorded that because we're gonna be putting that on Facebook. That is
Sounds
just
good.
so incredible for you to say that. I know you wanted to talk somewhat about the gubernatorial election coming up, so you take it away.
Alrighty, so I did hear Bob and how he was talking about Casey Putsch. I am 110% on board with Casey Putsch. The reason is because I certainly cannot trust Vivek Ramaswamy in this race. Vivek Ramaswamy has broken records for having huge fundraisers, pulling those money and pulling that money into it. In my opinion, I can't trust him because he is in connection with Peter Thiel. Whoever doesn't know who Peter Thiel is, he is a big tech guy from California. And the worst part about it, I don't care that he's gay. I don't care that he's a billionaire. I don't care about any of that. I'm saying live your life. We live in the greatest country. You can be a capitalist. You can be a billionaire. I love it. I love people that work their tails off to get where they're at. I do have a problem that he is having 8-hour lectures with 4 different parts on the Antichrist. What is that? Why are you having 8-hour lectures in California out of all those places, and you're saying basically stuff about the Antichrist? I haven't heard those lectures, nor do I want to hear about those lectures. And Vivek Ramaswamy has legal issues, connections with Peter Thiel. He's been served papers. He has court dates coming up while he's running for the big office in the state of Ohio. And I can't trust that. And I know what people are going to say in my community from the Democratic Party. Well, if Vivek has legal issues, why didn't you have a problem with Donald Trump's legal issues? Because Donald Trump's legal issues were, number one, out to get him. It was a total witch hunt. And that's the thing. Donald Trump had issues with the Democratic Party, and the Democratic Party wanted his head. Vivek Ramaswamy is running for the highest office in the land in the state of Ohio. No one's trying to get him. He's connected with Peter Thiel. He has legal issues coming up and legal dates coming up, and I just can't trust that. Also, you guys talk about how, well, not you guys, but the state of Ohio talks about how Vivek will win against Amy Acton. To be honest, it's going to be a close race. I thought it was going to be an entire landslide victory, but Amy Acton is the wolf in sheep clothing, because you look at how quiet she's staying and you look how quiet the Democratic Party is saying. They're planning something. The Democratic Party, and I'm going to say it, and you guys can disagree with me, but the Democratic Party is not dumb. They have dumb values, but they're smart. They know how to work it quietly in the background.
They're cunning.
And we had no idea that Kamala Harris was going to be just right in there. We had no idea that, I just saw that comment. Peter Thiel did find JD's Senate runs and all these different things. But Amy Acton is quiet, and that's what's scary. When a candidate is super quiet in a race this important, something's going on, something's going in the background, and that's what's so dangerous with Amy Acton in the Democratic Party in the state of Ohio.
Okay, here's what I want to do now, because we got a Generation Zer on, and you're 19 years old. I got it right. So I want us to let's direct some questions to Jason while we have a Generation Zer on, and let's just ask him questions so we can try to get the mindset of Generation Z. All right?
Joe, really quick, before we go to that question, I just want to thank Scott and Facebook for the thousands of stars that was sent. So thank you in the chat, Scott Siegel. We really appreciate the support.
Yes, thank you. 1,000 stars. So that
let me chime in really quickly here. I'm all for it, and I want to have good questions. Whatever platform you're on, please try to pose some good questions for our guests tonight. But I do want to be cautious and try to be as clear as possible about what's happening, because there's some really complex dynamics at play here. I'm not going to make excuses for Vivek Ramaswamy or Peter Thiel. I was working on Wall Street during 2008 and the market collapse. A lot of these people I knew. I didn't know Peter Thiel. I think I met him once, memory serves. But a lot of his counterparts, Jamie Dimon, and heads of some of these major Wall Street firms, I got to know many of them personally. It was a really dark and complex time. The legal wranglings between Vivek Ramaswamy and Peter Thiel, just going to push back slightly on the comments that Jason made. Peter Thiel appears to be making some lifestyle and personal choices that are unrelated to business dealings. And when you get into that billionaires club, a lot of these billionaires co-own and co-venture with each other. And sometimes they're different mixes of hundreds of different people. And you may not know who all the other partners are. Like when you're developing new software, fintech, that's financial technology. So I get the sense, and this is just kind of a 10,000 foot view, that Vivek Ramaswamy was one of those people that put some money into a pot with a bunch of other billionaires to try and develop some fintech. It has everything to do with my area of focus and what I do in my podcast, Unwoke Academy, and pushing back against ESG, which I actually like. So those are two, as far as I'm able to tell, unrelated issues. And Peter Thiel being an alleged Satan worshiper and things like that, I have no comment on. But I don't want to overcrowd the conversation with too much sort of cross-pollinating those different elements. I am all for, very specifically, let's drill down into everything Vivek Ramaswamy is involved with and put some clear definitions around that and decide whether or not we like it. But I didn't want to go too far in that direction. For more commentary, you can find, I talk about all these issues a lot. I have for years, actually going back many, many years, on Unwoke Academy. So I wanted to chime in with that.
Okay, fantastic. George, you have a thought or a question for our Generation Zer out there? He's a real fine young man, Jason.
Yeah, what I agree with him is that we always say the other side is stupid and dumb. I agree with him 100%. They're smart, they're cunning. The only thing I disagree with is they don't have dumb values. They have evil values. That is true. They trend towards Satanism, humanism, all kind of isms that are definitely anti-theistic at worst and anti-Christian at worst and anti-theistic at best. So they are not dumb. They are clever as a fox, wily as a snake, and their values are definitely oriented toward destroying the republic and Christianity. Obviously, some guy working at Ford, turning a wrench, probably doesn't embrace that or understand that, but the top leadership definitely. The other thing, I agree with Jonathan that lawsuits don't mean anything. I mean, I've been in business, and I'm just a crappy little accountant in Ohio City, and I've been sued for $6 million. I've been sued for 600,000. I've been sued for 1 million. I've been sued for 33 million by the federal government, and I've won all my lawsuits, but if you're in business, if you're actively engaged, people like to sue you for whatever reason if something goes south. So that doesn't really mean anything to me that Vivek's being sued. And also, I'd like to point that out. It's all the people keep calling him Vivek and different things. It's Vivek. It rhymes with cake. We should get the name of our opponents correct, as opposed to not calling them correctly. It's Vivek, rhymes with cake.
Can't have your cake and eat it too, though.
There you go.
Can't have your cake and eat it too. Brian, you got a question for Jason?
I just want.
Yeah, go ahead.
Can I make a comment really fast?
Yeah, go ahead.
So
go ahead.
You talked about the humanization and the evil that the Democratic Party is pushing. So when the Israeli war started, there was no protest for Israel. There was no support for Israel. Right away, they started supporting Palestine and all these different things. Look, the war over there is completely tragic on both sides. There were lots of killings on both sides. But there's more killings happening in Iran every week. Christians are being persecuted over there every single day, being killed. Where's the outrage? Where's the leftist outrage? They are being completely silent, but instead you have celebrities showing up at the Oscars wearing ICE out pins. Like that's going to solve anything? You guys are billionaires and you guys aren't doing anything while millions of people are dying all across the world because they're being persecuted for their faith. Why aren't you locking down the roads for that? Why aren't you standing up for the innocent people that are being killed just by proclaiming the name of Jesus Christ as their Lord? These people are just evil. It doesn't fit their narrative because these people are just Satan worshipers, and that's what they are. If they weren't, they'd be standing up for the innocent. But it's only innocent when it fits their narrative. And I am completely, and I will always say, I am so pissed off to see how so far left the media and the Hollywood elitists are. Why won't you stand up for life? And why won't you protect life? And why won't you call it out? But instead, you'll hide behind your phones and start tweeting away that ICE needs to be out. Give me a break.
Great comments.
Great,
Spot on.
Great passion. We'll love to see the passion.
Jason, just one basic question. What is the American dream for the Gen Zers? I have a feeling that it's not the same American dream that my generation, when we were 19, 20 years of age. I think that American dream has changed.
Yeah. The American dream, I think it's still alive, but we've had politicians that have basically suffocated the American dream for the younger generations. There's a 50-year mortgage rate now that I won't be able to own my home ever because we have this property tax issue. Also, we have many, prices keep going up and Gen Z is being let go. You always have politicians that say, what kind of country do we want to leave the next generation? Well, how about you get out of the way and let Gen Z take over? Let us make the American dream. Let us rebirth the American dream. Instead of being slaves to the government, instead of being slaves to all these mortgage rates, I want to grow a family. I want to have a wife. I want to have kids. I want to have a nice land and all these different things, but we won't have it because the property tax issue, let alone, but the government keeps taking our American dream away.
I've got a question connected to that. So, Jason, what is your sense for a big part of the American dream when I was growing up was small business, new business enterprise? What's your sense for the America's existing ability to start from scratch, bootleg something in your garage and design some new thing, develop it, launch it, and get it into the market and make money? That's what made America. What's your sense for the current ability to do that?
Well, I think you were kind of cut out there, but I heard a few things. I can tell you that Gen Z is very creative. You have a lot of entrepreneurs. You have a lot of people my age that are growing businesses from nothing. You have a lot of people that are in landscape. You have a lot of people that are making these different companies that are making millions right out of high school, and they have no college degree. We were lied to by our teachers. We were lied to by everybody that says college is the only way to succeed. No, it's not. You have a lot of entrepreneurs that never went to college or they dropped out of college. But the American dream, I believe it's still alive, but it's the ability of, in my opinion, there's two dreams. There's the American dream, but the dream of the Christian dream, to be fruitful and multiply, to not serve anyone else besides the Lord first. The Lord has to come number one. And if you don't do that, everything else will collapse. So the number one thing is Gen Z, we're being very faith-based. We are growing in our faith. We are growing in our patriotism. That's the number one thing. We love this country. We love God first, though. And that's the biggest thing. But like you said, with businesses and everything, we're very, very imaginary. And we turn that imaginary stuff into reality.
I think Generation Z would do good if just the older generation would just get out of your way. I think we'd be helping you a lot more here. Jason, my son will be voting for the first time in the primary. Where can I steer a fellow Generation Z to research candidates? You got a thought on that?
Well, I would say research all the candidates right now, because I'm a Casey Putsch guy. I would ask you to do your research on all the candidates. I'm not saying Vivek is dangerous. I don't see him, to be honest, I don't see him doing a lot for the state of Ohio, but I hopefully am wrong. Heather Hill, if you go on Kalshi, that's the live betting market, she's not even pulling anything. And I don't look at Kalshi, but I've always loved it to see how many people are actually putting up money for the primary. It goes Vivek Ramaswamy, the last time I checked, was like 88%. Casey Putsch at 12%. And then you had Jim Trussell pulling at 5%.
Jim Trussell?
Heather Hill's not even on there, and she's running. She's filed all the things. Jim Trussell's not running. He hasn't filed anything. And it's funny.
Yeah, Trussell would have to file. He's only got a few days, and he has to file. So if obviously, if he doesn't file the next couple of days, it's
everybody's
he can't do it.
Deadline's coming up.
Right, the deadline is just a few days away, February 4th, I believe it is. So everybody's got to have their signatures and everything in there. I'm going to go around the horn one last time. So if you guys have any question for our great Generation Zer, who's going to be going into the military, and he's got the strongest faith. He's got the strongest faith I've ever heard from anybody. George, you want to, any last thoughts?
No, I just want to congratulate him for going into the military and promoting the message of Jesus Christ, our Lord and Savior, and keep promoting it to the young people. And hopefully that message, along with the message of patriotism, will resound in them, because man naturally gravitates toward a creator, and all the brainwashing they've received in public schools needs to be eliminated, curtailed, obviated, and everything else. So good luck and God bless in your military career.
Well, thank you. I can definitely say that my entire life, God has been basically removed from everything. And when you try to remove something that people love, that's when things are going to get louder. And I got to give credit where credit's due. Vivek had one of the greatest things to ever say. It was, when you tell people that they can't talk, that's when they yell. And when you tell people that they can't yell, that's when things get torn down. And you see the establishment getting torn down right now because people are trying to eliminate God from everything, and people are putting God at the center of their life. And that's the biggest thing.
That's wonderful, man. Let me get Brian in here. Last thoughts, Brian?
I just say you're amazing, Jason. Congratulations to your mom and dad. Good luck.
You say that every time, and I show him every time that Brian said, "Good job, Mom and Dad." So I will show him that again. Thank you so much, Brian.
You're welcome.
All right.
Yeah, I'll echo that. Jonathan? Good job, Mom and Dad. Jason, we are in a spiritual war, and you are on the right path. We're also in a political war. I encourage anyone that you come into contact with, encourage them to learn about precinct strategy. That's just a catchphrase attached to basic common sense American civics. Precinct strategy, everyone wonders what it is. You know what it is? It's American civics. It's what our enemies are using against us inside the United States. We wonder, and they've done the same thing in Paris and in France and the UK and throughout the world. The bad guys will figure out how the political system works, gain the levers of power, and then crush the people. It's happening inside the United States. We see it happening in Virginia and parts of Texas, Minneapolis, Minnesota. What's happening is bad actors understand our political system better than we do. We turn that around by educating we the people so that we can reclaim our voice and vote in the republic. We can crush the uniparty when enough people, not if, but when enough people who are courageous and care step in and become active in local politics.
Yeah. Politics is very important, and I was learning that all these years. But I fell into the trap where politics was the center of my life, and I saw everything crumbling around me. And politics, really, if you don't have a direction, politics isn't going to make sense. Nothing's going to make sense until you have a direction. So for all the people that are asking, Jason, how do I get involved with politics? How do I do these things? It's simple. First, I would lead you to a church. If you don't put God at the center of your life, none of this will make sense. You will keep falling back into your sin. You will keep falling in all these things. There's one person that has said, I will release you from your shackles if you turn away from your sin, and I will release you. And that was Jesus Christ. Jesus didn't have to die on the cross, but he did just because of us. And for all the people that call him an immigrant, sorry, Jonathan, but I'm getting off script, but for all the people that are calling Jesus an immigrant, here's the thing. He's not an immigrant. He's just the Lord of Lords. He's the King of Kings. He is sitting on the right hand of the Father, and that's God. And Jesus loves you, he knows you, and he cares about you. So that's my message to Gen Z that wants to get involved with politics. Find God first.
And that's it. That's for all of us too, by the way. We all have to
that's
find
for
Christ.
Everybody.
Yep. Gotcha. Well, thank you again. Keep in touch with us. So keep us in touch with whatever happens down the road for you. We're very interested. Thank you again. God bless you. Okay.
Thank you so much, Joe.
Yeah,
Fantastic.
wonderful. Hey, guys, thanks everybody for tonight.
Joe, really quick. Again,
yeah, go ahead, Ken.
We want to thank everybody, especially Scott and Facebook for the stars. We really appreciate that. And go ahead, Joe. I'll let you end it. But thank you again for any support that you guys can do.
Yeah, we appreciate all the support.
Hopefully we see everybody tomorrow, Joe.
See everybody tomorrow. Here is the location. Let me pull this up real fast. Tomorrow, abolish property taxes. We will be at the Auburn Career Center. So if you get a chance, please get out there. We'd like to see you. Help ask some good, tough questions. And we will be live streaming it as well. You can watch it right here on Ohio Political News. And that is all she wrote tonight, guys. Have a good night, everybody. Thanks.
Thanks, everybody. Bye.
Good night, everyone.